And when you first got pregnant, what made you do the crack that night when you knew you were pregnant?
Because I found out I was pregnant. Because I found out I was pregnant. Because I found out I was pregnant.
So you said, let's celebrate by doing crack? You said, this sucks, so let's do some crack.
Yes.
It's a dirty truth for Deante Young.
Toast to us.
Cracking babies.
Toast to I've known you since I was 14.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, damn.
So I'm always preaching to all of you to share your uncomfortable backstory, your testimony, your dirty truth, hardships, challenges, setbacks, because it can save you and it can save me. Now, I don't want people to think that I'm being preachy, but I do want you to understand that there is a very, very distinct reason why I say to share your uncomfortable backstory. Okay? I'm going to tell you guys a little story just to kind of walk you through this. So, the first time that I truly understood the power and the value of our stories was way back in 2008. That is when I started a show called A Date with Deante. So, I had a friend, her name was Susie. And as far as I knew, she was just cool, funny, things like that. But at that point, it changed my whole entire understanding of the human condition and the human race. Before that, back in December 2007, a friend of mine, we went to her house and we were hanging out and we found out that she was going to be doing cocaine. So we left quickly because we don't do drugs. We just never have. And that was the last time I saw her until about 6 months later, which was in 2008, May. It turns out that her stomach was huge. So it was easy to understand she's pregnant. I said, "You're pregnant?" And then she says, "Yeah." I said, "Wait a minute, how far along are you?" She says, "About 8 months." I said, "Well, that was about 6 or so months, since I last saw you, which means you were pregnant when you were doing the cocaine." So she said, "Yeah." And I didn't know I was pregnant then, but once I found out, I did crack. I said, "What?" I said, "Why would you do crack?" So she said that she did crack to celebrate being pregnant.
Because I found out I was pregnant.
To celebrate being pregnant. Let me say that again. My friend, Susie, said that upon finding out that she was pregnant, she did crack cocaine to celebrate the news.
Because I found out I was pregnant.
Celebrate the news that she's pregnant. Now, at the time, she already had two young children. She had one that was almost 2 years old. Then she had another one that was like, I don't know, um, about 7 years old. And this was like the biggest shock to me. I could not wrap my mind around it. So that encouraged me to have her on as a guest on the show that I had just created. At the time, my show, A Date with Deante, was an interview show, and I admit I played it for entertainment. It was meant to be entertaining, but also probe into the minds of people. So I had done 2 episodes by the time that I had this conversation with Susie. When I put her on the show, her words completely and totally blew my mind. What made you do the crack that night when you knew you were pregnant?
Oh, shit.
Because I found out I was pregnant.
So you said, let's celebrate by doing crack? She described having been with 200 men in her life. She talked about when she was pregnant, when she found out she was pregnant, and she did the crack to celebrate. She said it sucks, so hey, let's go and do some crack. You said this sucks, so let's do some crack.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if she was trying to get rid of the baby. She didn't say that. But either way, it just blew my mind. Now, I'm sure that this kind of thing happens every day in some part of the world, but I'm just saying I was oblivious to it and I could not believe it. It was the most stunning thing I had ever heard. And once the episode aired, it changed everything for my show. And my show became very popular and it was a shock thing to so many people, just like it was to me, because let's face it, we don't often hear this kind of stuff about a person and a baby. We've heard of crack babies, but to hear someone say that they did crack because they were celebrating finding out they were pregnant, that was a whole different ball of wax, right? So she drank most of a bottle of wine while she was talking to me on camera. The baby, her name is Justine. The baby was born about a month later, month and a half later. Her name is Justine, and she's gorgeous. Justine Octavia. Wow. What a beauty. Born June 9th, 2008. This is Susie's baby. Remember Susie, the one that was 8 months pregnant and was doing crack during her whole pregnancy? Well, this is the precious baby right here. Over the ensuing months, Susie kept trying to pawn her off on people. I know specifically she was trying to pawn her off to me and my fiance at the time. And this is the great Susie, and this is Justine. This is what she looks like nowadays. She's got to be like 9 months. She's gonna be 9 months and 3 days. She's a great kid.
I'm mad because I wanted a pill and they took them.
You wanted a pill?
Yeah.
Everything going good?
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
No abuse anymore?
No.
Staying away from the crack?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look at her. What a cutie.
Are you gonna take her?
Give me the update on the other kids.
Devin's coming over tonight. He's
And Emma?
I'll see her next weekend.
Oh, I'm so proud of you. I gotta be honest with you, you're gonna win Mother of the Year.
I know I am.
No, seriously.
I am.
You're doing really good this year.
Right here.
Susie, you're gonna win Mother of the Year.
Bye.
I know your mom just left you here. What do you guys think about your mom? It was absolute shock value material. Everybody that knew about the episode, they would stop me at gas stations, they would stop me at restaurants, and they would say, "What's up with that girl, Susie?"
I hate nerds.
Your baby is born. So, you hate her? Okay, whatever.
So it really changed my whole understanding of the way people can be and how crazy their story. And so I delved a lot more into the stories. And again, I played it for like reality entertainment. It was comedic. We would make fun of people on the show. I was considered public enemy number one, but I was also considered a genius by other people. So it was one of those love me, hate me relationships that people had with my show. And throughout the course of season one, which ran all the way throughout 2008, I had so many other situations. So the wild stories, they just kept coming. But Susie's was the initiator. And it seemed as though it was also the accelerant because of all the things that came after that. That's when I realized, hey, your story is everything. Because that story can make someone heartbroken and say, yeah, I'm not going to do that. Or if they were already on that path, I'm not going to do that. Or inspire somebody else. Hey, don't do anything like this. Or make the person look at the mirror and say, man, you are jacked up, right? So, like I said, the wild stories kept coming. There was one where there was a 23-year-old woman, 23-year-old woman. She was attractive, very attractive. And she had already spent time in prison and had a habit of doing heroin once a week. She was a guest on my show. And she talked about how heroin was so addicting. Now, I don't begrudge people for doing drugs. It's a sickness, it's an illness, it's an addiction. I understand that a whole lot more now than I did in 2008. But to hear her say that so matter of factly and talking about it like it was just being addicted to Kool-Aid, it was really shocking and stunning. And she was already a hardened criminal, although you look at her and she looks like she wouldn't hurt a fly, the harmless, most harmless person in the universe. But she was teamed up with bad people, and they just made her negativity go to a whole nother level. But when she was talking to me, she was very charming. So, a 23-year-old woman, very attractive, did heroin once a week. And she died just a few years later. I don't even think she got out of her 20s. And if she did, barely. But it was crazy to me to hear that. Later in season one, there was a different young woman who was friends with the 23-year-old heroin addict. She told me that she had caught herpes when she was 16. On camera, she said that she had herpes. She also told me that at the time she had had sex with a lot of people and no one had gotten herpes from her. She also said, when I asked her how many people has she been with, and she said, "Do you want the real number?" And then I said, "Yeah, the real number." And then so she estimated it was about 78 people. And at the time, this woman was about 25 years old. 78 people. Look, I don't begrudge even her. Live and let live, right? But as I'm going through these interviews and I'm just listening to their stories, I'm not saying their stories define them because I don't know that. But finding out that this very attractive woman, she was also very attractive, that she had herpes and she had that much sex with that many people, and she just considered it a victory because no one had gotten anything. Now, she may have told people that she had herpes. I don't know, maybe. But the thing that sticks out to me, especially in retrospect, is the idea that you would never expect somebody to have that happen. You would never expect someone to admit that. When I say have that happen, I know, herpes happens every day. But I'm talking about have it happen where someone openly admits it and openly admits that they've been with almost 100 people with this STD and say it almost like it's a badge of honor. And when I think about that, one thing I would say about her story is that it's very important to be transparent and be self-aware. And I think it's very, very important to just say your truth. In this case, your dirty truth. Your dirty truth is not literally dirty. It's the thing that's uncomfortable to admit. She seemed wholly comfortable in saying that she had herpes and that she had let 78 guys have their way with her. We need to know each other's stories. That's what I'm saying. Because in this case, it's not just lifting someone up, it's literally saving them. Imagine if one person watched that episode and said, "Hey, that's the kind of girl that I would just go for. I would be all over her." The assumption for a lot of people would be, "Oh, look how attractive she is. She would never be dirty or never have a disease or anything like that." There are some naive people out there, and I have counted myself among them. And even though it sounds ridiculous and far-fetched, I would have looked at her and said, "Man, I want every part of her." Not realizing that it's like a toxic wasteland to do something with her. I mean, no disrespect, but just being honest. When I got to season two, I had learned so much from season one of A Date with Deante. I don't know that I really understood the value of sharing our stories, at least not with that language. But what I did understand was the value of just being brutally honest and let the chips fall where they may, because being brutally honest about who you are and what your life experiences are and what kind of person you are, it may have some people looking down at you, but then no matter what, you're going to have people looking down at you for anything. So you may as well just be who you actually are. But season two was a turning point because my show locally got very, very popular. So at that point, I had begun visiting a trailer park in Madison, Ohio. And I met a young woman who told me that her favorite STD was chlamydia. And her reason is because you can't die from it. So on top of all that, she also had a daughter who was less than a year old, and she had a dysfunctional relationship with that child's father. She openly admitted that she had STDs and she asked me to film her and this coke obsessed guy that she I guess considered to be a side piece when her boyfriend was at odds, her baby's father. So the coke obsessed side piece, this guy, they wanted me to film them having sex, which I did. So this woman who said her favorite STD was chlamydia, I often saw her take pills, crush them up, and then snort them. So she would snort crushed up pills. So she was actually perceived as, let's just say, as pleasant a term as I can, the neighborhood male server. Yeah, and when I say male, I'm not talking about the mail that goes in your box. Okay. And I liked her a lot as a person. She's a nice person and she's a pretty girl. But that blew my mind. And she had a lot of bruises and cuts and stuff on her legs from times that she tried to, off herself or at least get attention. I don't know. There was another woman during that time in the trailer park who had just turned 18. She had had a daughter when she was 14. And on camera, when I was interviewing her, she slit her wrist. Now, not deep enough to kill herself, but she also told me that she loved blood and called it pretty. She also said that she's probably going to die of an overdose. And she said a lot of drugs. She said she more than likely would not live to be 40. All of that was extraordinarily jarring to take in. But imagine how powerful her story would be to someone who is in that same boat or someone who knows someone who's in that same boat. And then say, I probably should talk to this person because the type of opening up that this woman did to me, I don't see her giving that type of honesty to a parent. I could be wrong. But just knowing that and knowing who we are in the world with, it's important too. It just is. There was also a woman who lived in the trailer park who was very, very, very good friends with this guy who I later found out was about as creepy as a person can be. So this guy, a 60-year-old guy, he admitted that he was heavy into all drugs, especially cocaine, speedballs, and heroin. As a matter of fact, he said that heroin is the best drug in the world. He also made it a point to proudly admit that he often wears women's underwear. I didn't believe him, but he proved it. He proved it on one of my episodes by walking around in women's underwear. Now, far be it from me to cast a stone against someone and what they do because I'm a pretty unique person myself. I'm an oddball, all that stuff, right? But just taking into account the fact that these people willfully admitted their dirty truth, that's to me a lot better than someone who you know nothing about. That's the whole reason why they create job applications. They want to know who they're dealing with. That's the whole reason why when you apply for a loan or apply for a credit card, they want to know what kind of person you are in different ways. That's the point of having a record versus no record. story helps to crystallize who we are as people, in addition to helping people. So I just say, you know, share your story with me, save me, or save yourself. I mean, it's going to do all of those things. Now, in season two, there was, I would say it's indisputable that in season two, the biggest star of that season was a guy that I eventually started to popularize his name as Tony Trainwreck. That was not his actual name. His actual name is Keith. But no one was more shocking than Tony Trainwreck. So Tony Trainwreck was a scraggly white man who had a raspy voice and missing teeth. He's also missing a finger. So this guy, he's a homeless alcoholic who shouted racial slurs and racial beliefs constantly at me. I never, ever laid a finger on him. I just let him say whatever he wanted. Why? Because I wanted to draw him out. I did not want this to be a combative thing. So by me stopping him with a fist or the threat of a fist, that was not going to serve the purpose that I wanted. Now, again, I played the show for entertainment. It was comedic and it was meant to also educate people. But by no means am I going to sit here and say, oh, this was basically a Harvard masterclass at the societal norms or abnormalities of people. I'm not going to say that. I'm being transparent. Listen, this was comedy and entertaining, but it also can be perceived in a different context as something that can serve us in a very meaningful and valuable way. And Tony Trainwreck was priceless. He was on the show, I believe, about 15 or 16 different times. So the thing I like most about him is the things that went on when we were not filming. His backstory, which I always talk about backstory. I always talk about our uncomfortable backstories. But his backstory shocked me because as a kid, he told me he was beat up by black kids when he was a kid. And of course, that was his reasoning for being racist or at least saying racist things. He also called himself Bawana, which through my research, I found out that what it means is not what he said it meant. I said, what does Bawana mean? He says, great white man. Well, actually, it means something different, but there is some confusion in certain parts of the world if it means that or not. So he called himself a great white man. He also said that blacks are dumb as a box of rocks. This is all recorded in my episodes. The ironic thing, though, is that Tony Trainwreck is a very knowledgeable and smart and intelligent tutor. He tutors math, he tutors science, and he talked a lot about global warming. He's obsessed with fractions. But when you get him drunk, and in this case, people assume that I was always getting him drunk, but he was really getting me drunk probably more like 85% of the time. And he had his own money most of the time. But when he's sober, he's practically intellectual. But when he's drunk, his nickname is Critter, and he acts worse than a critter. So I interviewed so many people and learned so many stories, and it was remarkable to have that experience. Now, again, at the time, I wasn't thinking of A Date with Deante to be this great learning ground for understanding the power of our stories and how they can move the needle in valuable and priceless ways. But I still knew that at the time, I still understood that the show was very important, not just for the sake of it being funny or the sake of it being shocking. I knew even then that it was important just on the basis of being a mirror. There's a lot of people that watch the show. And really, you can make a case for the fact that everyone who watched it in some way, shape, or form was watching a mirror. Because maybe you didn't have herpes and have sex with 78 people, but maybe you did something that was unscrupulous in a different time of your life. And then you were able to look at that and make the connection and say, you know what? I wasn't always on the up and up. Being on the up and up or not, sharing the story is very, very important. And I think about the people that try to look perfect. That's one thing that I can say. On A Date with Deante, no one tried to look perfect. And if they did, it definitely backfired. Because why would you want to look perfect when you know that you're not? Why would you want to hide your stories, your true stories, the things that you overcame? And even if you're still there, own it. Like I said, you should own your dirty truth. Like, why not? If you're going to be a raging crackhead, if you're going to be a promiscuous man or a promiscuous woman, own it. But people will say, Deante, I can't do that because I'll get criticized. They're going to have something to say. Well, you know what? The last time I checked, the way the world works is that people are going to have something to say no matter what is going on, period. And I give you a perfect example of how I had to learn to just do what's true to you and say what's true to you. Make moves like it's what's true to you. So when I was younger, much younger, and also in more recent years, say 7, 8, 9 years ago, all the way back to when I was a teenager, I always felt like I had to go for heavy set women because why would a heavy set woman reject me? Why would a skinny woman want me? Because you see me, I mean, I might be gorgeous, but my girlish figure, I feel, serves as a repellent, right? So I would psychologically have this thing where it would become a block in my head when it came to trying to get a slim woman, which is considered ideal in this world by the general population. Of course, nothing applies to everyone, but by the general population, slim, skinny, thin, all that. I just had this block in my mind, and whenever I saw a heavy woman, I said, "Oh, I have a chance with her." Well, it turns out that I got rejected by any women, heavy women, attractive women, ugly women. So once I learned that lesson many, many years later, I realized, wow. So if I can get rejected by ugly women and heavy women, I may as well just go for what I actually don't think I can get, which is the slim woman. Because if I can get rejected going after something that I think is going to work for me, then that means that I don't have anything to lose. So it's the same thing with this. You can tell your dirty truth. You can tell your story. You can tell people the things that you overcame. That stuff is actually a very noble endeavor. And it makes people trust you more, to be honest. Here's another example. I can say, man, I don't want people to know that I wear colorful socks. Some days I wear socks that are pink, but I don't want people to know that. So I probably should wear some socks that's more manly, right? I'm not gay or bisexual or anything. I'm straight, but I like the way these socks look and I just have that style. So then I don't wear the pink socks and instead I wear some plain white socks. And then somebody say, "Oh, look at you, you wearing tube socks." Or look at you wearing those Nike socks. Those look like footies. Oh, I don't like that. That looks stupid. People can still say that. So I may as well just wear the socks I want to wear because the socks that I think people want to see me wear, some people will still have a problem with that. Does that make sense? So share your story, share your dirty truth, be brutally honest about who you are, and be unapologetic of all previous versions of yourself because, again, that's what brought you to who you are now, the knowledge you have now, the value that you have now. We as people, we appreciate, we don't depreciate. We appreciate by virtue of the life experiences that we endure. It's not wealth that makes us appreciate. The value that we hold comes from the experiences that we've gone through. And like I say, grow through. Always understand that. That's why it's urgent and it's your obligation to share your story. Now you might say, I don't have to share that. I gotta tell people what okay, no, you don't have to. But realistically, it's in your best interest to share your story. You'd be amazed at opportunities that come your way. If I tell somebody that I was insecure as a child and that I felt like I was a complete and total waste of time, somebody you don't know who might be listening, they might say, oh, you would be perfect to speak at our self awareness or self esteem group. You don't know. It might be someone who they hear you say it and they see you as being far above being insecure and they want you to be a mentor to their significant other or their child or whoever. You just never know. That's just the bottom line. So we have to save each other by sharing our stories.
It's a dirty truth for Deante.